Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I guess you're not hungry anymore. Hungry anymore? Hungry anymore? Hungry. Welcome, and I want a huge applause for Lara. She's bringing a very important topic, bringing old senior people and passionate juniors together to enrich your company. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for letting me share in this moment with you. I'm very happy. I'm Lara. I'm an Android developer based in Berlin. I work at Blinkist. And I joined tech 3 years ago, so I'm fairly new. But still, it surprised me that we still need to talk about hiring juniors. So I'm very glad to see so many people today here because I really want to convince you on why you should be hiring juniors and why, and then I will show you how you can do that, how can that benefit you, but also your team. And of course, I'm going to give some tips on how to help your juniors grow. Disclaimer, I'm going to be talking about juniors and seniors because I want to highlight the two extremes. But many of the things I'm going to be sharing today apply to any level. So first, let me start with a question. I want to know how many of you here have been part of the hiring process of your company, maybe looking at CVs, reviewing coding challenges, or doing interviews. Okay, nice. A lot of people. How many of you that raise your hand think it's easy to find developers? Okay, I want to talk with you later because I want to know why. So, in general, except that person there, we think that it's really difficult to find developers. And even Ivan yesterday, we were talking, he said, we are not enough. So why don't we hire juniors, right? I remember in the first months on my first job as QA, they were talking, my teammates, Android developers, they were talking about hiring and that they spent months looking for developers and they could not find anyone. And for me, that was very shocking because it took me months to get my first job. Yeah, I come from a different background and I didn't have experience, but, well, it took me months to find a job. I come from a country where it's difficult to find a job, so you're telling me that you cannot find people to work? I didn't get it. And I never thought that hiring would be so difficult and it would take that long. And the reason is that there's a huge demand on developers. And the market is in favor of the candidates. Sadly, that means that the turnover is really high, too. And turnover means that the frequency in which developers come and go from a company. For example, only during my first year in tech, I saw 6 Android developers coming and going from my own team. And why is it so hard to find developers? What do companies want? When it comes to hiring, companies prefer seniors. And the reason is maybe because they can do any task, right? The seniors bring experience because they already have the knowledge. There are some companies like Netflix that have made statements like, we don't hire juniors because, well, we can afford seniors, right? But not all companies can do that. Not all companies can afford what Netflix does. We all know that seniors are not cheap either. And besides, bringing juniors to your team is going to give you some other benefits. So why not hiring juniors? I remember that in a past company, when we were discussing about how difficult it was to find developers, one of my colleagues said, why don't we hire a junior or someone that just graduated from university? The answers I heard, probably you heard them too. We don't want seniors because they cannot work alone, because they need a lot of time to get onboarded. Someone has to train them. We only want seniors. And my question is, where do seniors come from? No one is born being a senior. You all have been juniors before, and you all had to look for your first job. And for juniors, this is not easy either. I bet some of you went to university, studied computer science, and after your degree, you got an internship in a company. So it was fairly easy for you to get your first job. Some of you went to university too, but didn't have this internship, so you had to look for your job. So it was a bit more difficult for you. But some of you even switched careers into tech, so you had to fight even more to get into the market and find your first job. So we all were juniors at some point, and we all need that first opportunity. And getting those is really hard. So imagine yourself right now as you were as a junior. And so you finish your studies and you want to get your first job and you're excited. But as you start searching, you don't find open positions. And all those open require you to know many frameworks that you didn't try, you didn't even know that they existed. And so, you don't meet all the requirements. So how can you even apply, right? Getting your first job as a junior is really tough. It can be really tough, but it's possible. Today, I won't be talking about how can you do that, but instead, I want to highlight what is to be a junior and how you can help them. All right, so you juniors, just after looking for your first job, let's say you found your first gig, right? Your first job, and you're excited. But the struggle's still not over. It just started. Meet the final boss of professional software development, the imposter syndrome. You, junior, got hired into a team of seniors, and you are the only junior there. They are talking about libraries that you have not used yet, and they are discussing things that you don't understand. And you feel like an imposter. What am I doing here? I don't belong here. This is not for me. And internally, you start feeling fear. You are afraid that someone thinks that you are an imposter. You are scared of working with more experienced people. You are afraid of asking too many questions and bothering your teammates. Afraid that someone thinks that you're not good enough. I'm sure that many of you have felt some of this at some point of your career. Some of us still feel like this sometimes. But I know this is very hard to deal with. And all we can do is to always focus on the good things, right? Highlight the good things. Because juniors do really bring really good things to your teams and also to you. Juniors will bring so much fresh motivation. I'm sure that you have felt demotivated at work. Imagine someone that doesn't feel motivated, and you know that this is contagious. The same happens with motivation. once you have someone that is really motivated to learn things, it's contagious. It gets to you. That's really good. They also can have fresh knowledge. And by that, I mean, maybe they had time to play with libraries that you could not play with before, components or anything. Or even they could have some knowledge on other areas, like data science or web development, maybe Android or iOS. And that's very valuable too. Juniors will be also bringing a flexible mindset. And let's be honest, we all know that seniors not always are very flexible, right? And probably because you get comfortable on using certain approaches and libraries, so you don't want to start using something else. And the reason is most of the cases that you want to keep a stable product. You don't want to break that. But sometimes we just don't feel motivated to learn something new. That's it. Juniors in this case would be very excited to learn something new and be flexible to try out different things. And juniors also will be having this learning mindset that we all sometimes lose, but they have it. And as they have a lot of motivation and they want to learn a lot, they will be doing anything. So that can also benefit you sometimes, like you don't want to do those tasks that are boring for you, that you're doing over and over. They will do them happily. But disclaimer, I will tell you why later, but you should not always give those boring tasks to your teammates, juniors. So there are a lot of things that juniors bring positively to the team. But however, it's not only you and the other developers who have to be convinced, but also managers have a set of expectations. So now, let's think of what managers expect from juniors and from seniors to compare. So from juniors, the first thing is they will be continuously learning, right? From a senior, you are expected to be continuously learning too. And why is that? We developers need to continuously learn. And not because you are a senior already. It means that you can stop learning. Because you need to continuously be growing on your profession. Of course, we all and managers expect that juniors will be asking questions. But from seniors, what do managers expect? They should be asking also questions. But both be open to answer questions and also making them. Juniors, in the beginning, they will be taking the small tasks because they have to learn, they have to learn the project. Seniors, in this case, of course, they are expected to do almost anything. But the thing is that juniors here, they will be doing some small tasks in the beginning, but that would be as you are progressing on your career. Then, about processes. Juniors in general are not expected to know processes or taking part of them, like working across teams or even do releases, could be, depending. From a senior, it's in general expected that they can do everything, right? And finally, managers expect that juniors will be needing some guidance. Who is going to provide that guidance? Seniors. Seniors are expected to guide the juniors. And by guidance, I mean mentoring. Yes, at this point, you all probably are thinking right now, yeah, this is really cool, but what do I gain, right? Well, one of the things that you are going to take from that is that you're going to guide someone or several people. So the company will be seeing that you can lead, right? That's good. Also good is that you can delegate things. If things that you don't want to do, like some boring tasks or attending meetings. Could be. We all have those meetings where the company wants a representative from each team, but because they want to discuss something, you can send a junior. The most important thing that you are winning by mentoring juniors is your career growth. And because as part of your role as a senior, you are expected to be able to mentor. And now I'm going to give you some tips on how can you make this a reality. So what is mentoring? Try to think for a moment, what is mentoring for you? For me, mentoring is not a teacher-student relationship. For me, the base of mentoring is sharing. And that works both ways. So let's see some tips on how can you do this. So the first key point is knowledge sharing. And how do you actually share your knowledge? Well, you can share your knowledge when you give constructive feedback on code reviews, for example. Or when you're talking about why that library didn't work for your project and you're using this other one instead. You're sharing also your knowledge when you share a talk or an article, or when you discuss how you think that an approach can benefit your project. And so in general, there are many ways of how you can share your knowledge. And just by doing that, you're mentoring a junior already. But to be able to effectively share your knowledge, of course, you need another skill, which is probably the most difficult one that we have to master in our jobs, which is communication. Communication is probably one of the hardest skills, if not the most hard. And so think of what is effective communication. How can you, as a senior, explain a complex concept to a junior? Well, there are many things that will help you here. And I want to show you an example. It would be on Android, because we are on the Android track, but this can apply to anyone. So let's say that on our company, there's something cool we have to do, which is just a really simple screen with an image, a text, a couple of buttons. And those buttons are going to trigger a API call. That's it. That's simple. And your junior will come and will say, I want to do that. I want to do that because this is really simple. And well, you as a senior start thinking, well, our Android project follows MVVM, follows repository pattern. We have use cases, and we have dependency injection, and we have RX. How can we explain this to a junior now? Yeah. So one of the things you can do is, for example, focus the learning on a single topic. For example, in this case, we could focus on the architecture pattern that the project is following. it's okay to say, on this task, we are going to focus on the architecture. We won't focus on dependency injection, for example, or anything else. And at the moment that the junior comes across dependency injection or anything else, you can just guide them step by step, or let them just copy an example. That's it, but without explanations. One single topic at a time. This way, you are gonna help them understanding, but without overwhelming. Another tip is to basically sketch ideas. Just have regular pen and paper at hand to sketch ideas, draw, maybe a whiteboard. And why that? You can help visualizing the ideas. And this is gonna make it easier for your juniors, but not only for them, but for you when explaining, and anyone else that is listening to you at that moment. Besides, juniors will have your ideas, your sketches, for another time they need them. So thinking about this screen, the junior had to create, which is very simple, but given our Android project, how can we sketch that? Probably we will explain that we have to create an API client, and then we are going to create a service to serve this request to whoever needs them. But this is only the data layer. Then we have the domain, where we have our repository and the use cases. And then maybe the fun part for some, the presentation, where we have, given MVVM, our layout and our view model and our view and our screen and our navigation. All of these things the junior has to create. How can you explain then you have to create this simple screen, but you have to build the whole list of things. Sketch ideas, really simple. Another thing that I really find important in communication is that you have to be constructive. And this doesn't apply only for seniors. When you review code, you always have to offer an alternative or an example. Be constructive. Don't ever say, why did you do that? Instead, you can say, as I understand, you did this because of this reason. However, have you considered doing this other approach? Different ways of conveying the same information or the same question. Also, what you can do is to, instead of writing your comments on GitHub, is taking a conversation offline. This way, you will have a more personal approach to the people, to your juniors. It won't feel like a personal attack. They will feel like it's closer. Another thing that is also really important is that you have to keep your criticism in private, always. But always praise in public. And this also applies to code reviews. Now your juniors are working, and they have to take some tasks, right? So which kind of tasks can they do? I'm sorry, but here you have to be aware of what they can do. That's the thing. But in the beginning, it's going to be hard, though with time, you will see what they are capable of. And you always have to challenge what they can do in order for them to grow. Before I said that you can delegate the tasks you don't want to do, which is true, but also that you cannot give them always the same type of tasks. And why is that? Because they need to learn the whole project as you do, or you did. And of course, you don't want them to get bored, right? No one wants. Also, very important is to have a good environment, and that means no sexism. Everyone should feel comfortable asking any question. If seniors ask questions to each other without attacking, juniors will do the same and will ask questions. And lastly, I know that not everyone is fan of paper ramming, but this is another great tool that will help your juniors grow very fast. Paper ramming is not, you code what I say. Paper ramming is a conversation around a problem. I suggest you here to allow your junior take over the keyboard. Even better if they can sit on their space, so they feel safer or more comfortable. And I swear that paper ramming is gonna boost the learning. And both sides, not only for juniors though. So, now I also want to give some tips for juniors. Here there are many things that you can do to help out with the situation. One thing to keep in mind is when to ask questions. Well, you have to interrupt. You have to interrupt your colleagues. Don't stop yourself from asking questions. Don't wait for the right time. The best time to ask a question is at any time. And what if you get stuck? What can you do? So welcome to professional development. We all get stuck, but the thing is that not everyone has the same capacity to move forward and get unstuck. So what can you do? One thing that you can do is to, for example, time box it. Give yourself 4 hours, let's say, half a day, to work on something, do your research. If you continue being stuck, you can ask. Another thing that we have to all do is to take breaks. Sometimes we all get stuck because simply we need a break. Our brain needs a break. And I'm sure that most of you, if not everyone here, got stuck at some point, closed the laptop and went somewhere else, like, I don't know, the kitchen or home even. And then the next time you open your laptop, you see the problem you had previously, and you're like, I know what's the problem. That's it. You took a break. Another thing that really helps getting unstuck is rubber duck debugging. What is that? So this is when you have a rubber duck, let's say a figurine, whatever, and you're explaining the problem you have. This is a way of debugging. Some people do. But what I do is not rubber duck debugging, but more like human duck debugging. And it's when I am stuck on something and I tell a teammate, someone is helping, and I'm explaining what I want to do, and I explain all the steps I took. And while I'm explaining, I'm like, oh, I see the problem. okay, this doesn't make sense. Thank you. And they don't say anything. They were just there helping you, being your rubber duck, right? So how can you start a task as a junior? Sometimes it's overwhelming when you have a task and you're like, whoa, where do I start from, right? So if you don't have any idea, just simply ask a teammate, because they can help you creating a list of steps you have to follow. But what if you have some idea, rough idea of what you have to do? So in this case, what you can do is to write down those steps that you think you have to follow, and then ask for guidance again. This way, your teammates can help you seeing mistakes you have made before on your assumptions, because you don't know the project yet. So always ask for guidance on this. Another great thing to do, not great, but that we all do, is copy-pasting. And copy-pasting is okay, right? We all copy from Stack Overflow. But we all know that the most important thing here is to know what you are copying. What's the problem you have? What's the problem you need to solve? And what you are copying, right? But here I want to suggest something else, is that sometimes instead of copying random code, you can look for examples within your own project. And this can help you also knowing the patterns they are using and keeping everything consistent. What if you don't know? When many times yes, but juniors will ask themselves, I don't know. I don't know this. Should I know this? And I'm afraid to say, I don't know. You have to tell your colleagues. You have to tell them that you don't understand something. It's something difficult to accept and to say, but once you start being open, you will realize of something. Your teammates may not know either. And this is for everyone. If you are open, saying, I don't know, other colleagues will feel more comfortable saying this and will do the same. Hearing someone else saying this, saying, I don't know, makes you feel less imposter. And by this, everyone wins. We have seen many things that juniors bring and that also have them join our teams and get them on board is doable. It's something we all can do. Of course, your team needs to be prepared, but the benefits that they bring will compensate them. Are you still not convinced on hired juniors? Remember, you're going to help someone to progress in their careers. And that is a very rewarding experience that you will have, and your team will enjoy too. And you are going to learn a lot, because the best way to master something is to teach it. And you and your senior developers will become better by bringing junior developers into your teams. There are no seniors without juniors. Sure, you can pay for seniors, but not every single company can afford that. Also, juniors will never forget their mentors. When you dedicate part of your time helping another person, helping others learn, they will value that even if you don't think so. And that can even help you in the future. Maybe, let's say, when you're looking for your next job. I'm personally very grateful to many people that helped me growing as a developer. And I have to thank App Builders for inviting me today to talk to you and share my experience and my ideas with you all. No matter if you are a junior or a senior, I really, really hope that you have learned something and then you can start applying it in your daily work. Thank you.